comments made by Jameis Winston's attorney, David Cornwell. He was an attorney in the student code of conduct hearing on campus in Florida State, where essentially they said there's nothing to charge Winston with on campus there or penalize him. David Cornwell, the assistant legal counsel to Pete Rozelle and Paul Tagliabue back in the day at the beginning of his career. That's also seen him work with Lee Steinberg and Jeff Morad, two agents. Morad was the one who held this sports symposium in Villanova last Friday, at which David Cornwell said at one point, talking about the readiness of players to go from college to the pros, that it's very difficult to do, and even using his client, Jameis Winston, as a case in point, saying that he's ready to be an NFL player on the field, but, quote unquote, he's not ready to be an NFL player off the field. And pleased to have David Cornwell joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Counselor, you made news last week.
How about that, Rich? How you doing?
I'm doing fine. So
look what I got to do to get you to talk to me.
Now, look, I've interviewed you many times back in the day on Total Access, David.
That's right.
Back in the day.
It's been a while.
But, come on, you know how this works. You know how this works, certainly in this draft period where everybody's wondering if Jameis Winston is a face of a franchise and can be. And then here's somebody who represents him and successfully, I might add, and doggedly saying this at a symposium. So I'll give you the floor to fill in the blanks here, David.
Well, your lead-in was accurate. We were at Jeff Morad's Sports Law Center at Villanova Law School, being interviewed by Andy Brandt from ESPN, talking about a number of issues. At this point of the discussion, we were talking about the past year in the NFL with conduct issues and what it means to be in the NFL and the challenges. And I made the observation that no player, including Jameis, is ready on day one, which is the reason that the NFL has the rookie symposium, which is the reason that Troy Vincent has spent so much time as executive VP of football operations developing the player engagement programs, which is the reason that Jameis requested a meeting with the commissioner, which is the reason we spent a full day meeting with the commissioner, Troy Vincent, and other NFL executives and representatives to make it clear not only what is expected of all young men, and this young man in particular, and coming into the league, but also, and perhaps more importantly, the resources that are available to him to aid him in the transition. This is the classic case of people liking sausage but not liking watching it being made. Mm-hmm. With the media now, the hyper-focus and instantaneous publication of a clause in a 35-minute discussion. We made news. I created a distraction, and it's my opportunity to explain, frankly, what this process has been about generally for players and what it is about specifically for Jameis. And I can say that while no player is ready on day one, Jameis Winston is more ready than most.
But, David, again, I'm not telling you what time it is. You've been around this sport for a very, very long time. That many people would say that this is, and I've seen it, I've read it online, that what you just did was a nice backtrack and a spin on something that speaks to his readiness to be a face of a franchise, certainly from somebody who has defended him in a sexual assault case. You've seen all the evidence. You've seen him behind the scenes. You've seen him under pressure. And taking that comment, certainly in this draft, in this time of the draft, is something that you're now backtracking on. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think, listen, I've been around long enough not to debate headlines and things like that. Backtracking, clarifying, expanding. We don't have to quibble over the nuanced term, but I am clearly taking the opportunity to explain my comments and make it clear to people what I believe. Now, if you want to question me, that's fine. But I know what my truth is. I know what Jameis's truth is, and I know what the truth is. And what we're not going to do is get bogged down in a battle over tweets and headlines. No player is ready on day one. Jameis Winston is a remarkable young man the things that he has done for preparation, meeting with Coach Harbaugh, the work that he's done with Coach Whitfield about being the mechanics of the game, the work that he's done with his agents, Greg Ginsky and Kenny Felder, on media training and marketing issues. This young man has developed remarkably just in a number of months, and he will continue to grow with the resources that are around him. I don't know why that's news.
David Cornwell, sports attorney, represents Jameis Winston, has in the past represented Jonathan Martin, the offensive lineman from the Miami Dolphins, in the bullying case that Ted Wells looked into, and I want to talk to you about Ted Wells in a moment. Also represented Ryan Braun and A-Rod in past in Major League Baseball, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So, Jameis Winston, you said nobody's ready to be a professional in the National Football League. Put a little bit more meat in the bones on that, David. Why would you say that when we do see somebody like Andrew Luck, and we have seen, would you call them outliers in that respect?
No, I don't think standing alone, Andrew. I know standing alone, Andrew wasn't ready because I know his dad. Mm-hmm. And standing alone, he wasn't ready. But the resources available to him and the process that he went through, he's ready. He needs to get a new cell phone. But besides
yes.
But you know what I'm talking about. You put somebody out there on their own, and they are going to sink. Even Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman. You need a group around you. You need to take advantage of the resources, and you need the opportunity to grow.
Have you spoken to Jameis Winston since your comments on Friday that you say were, that he might have taken out of context by reading it, the tweets and the headlines, David?
Absolutely.
So what may I ask what that conversation, how that went?
You may ask.
How was the conversation, David?
That's between me and James.
See, there you go. You just led me down the path. See, this is what happens when I interview I object, David.
I love you.
So
you saw that coming, don't
I know. But look, I've been to rookie symposiums, and I've seen rookies take it in and utilize that information successfully. I've seen rookies asleep in the front row while some of this information was being downloaded to them. Philip Buchanan has a book that's coming out. There was an excerpt that I read this weekend that was eye-popping, that his mom asked for $1 million after he was drafted, saying that was the fee for raising him. And so many players have to deal with all of these issues. How will Jameis Winston handle the crucible of the National Football League when it's all said and done, David?
With caution, with good judgment, with intellect, with an understanding that he's going forward in a spotlight, and the standard is be sensible. But your examples are exactly what I was talking about. No matter what, the first time your best friend comes up to you and asks for $250,000 to start a record label, that will be the first time it happens in your life. And it will be a challenge to deal with. How much is that friendship worth? A game check, $250,000? You got to decide, right? These are the type of things. But Jameis Winston won't be asleep at the rookie symposium, because that's the process we've been going through. And that's why I can say definitively that he's more ready than most. He already knows the resources that are going to be made available to him. He has names to put on top, matched to the programs, and he knows the importance of availing himself of these resources, because guess what? You're getting somebody who's been tried by fire. He's been through the fire in the last year and a half. He knows what the risks are.
So how did the meeting with the commissioner go?
I thought it was remarkable. I think probably something that every player should do. I know the commissioner doesn't have the time, but the time that they gave to Jameis, the clarity, the honesty, the directness. We sat in the commissioner's office, 4 people, Troy Vincent, the commissioner, Jameis, and me, and that was their conversation. And I don't think that's ever happened before. That was an incredible opportunity and incredibly impactful. But that's not just what's going on. Greg Ginsky and Kenny Felder have made this young man, exposed him to media training, all sorts of things. But listen, it's not as if they're dragging him along. He is an active and dynamic participant in the team that is prepping him for his transition. Things are going to be fine.
Can you recount for those who may not have read the reports of your comments or your quote of the commissioners after Jameis Winston pointed to the Lombardi Trophy in the commissioner's office and said, "I want to win one of those." Can you recount that exchange?
Certainly. And the commissioner put his arm on Jameis, turned him around, and said, I want you to get one of these, and pointed to the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, which is a trophy. And the commissioner talked to Jameis, not to me, to Jameis, about the significance of that award because you're selected by your peers, fellow players, and who Walter Payton was in this league. And we also talked about if he has the privilege of being selected first by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he will be going to the team that Doug Williams played for. They talked about not just respecting the shield, but also the uniform, the legacy of becoming a football player and then an NFL football player, but also a quarterback, a black quarterback, leading an organization. And listen, I grew up with the commissioner. He and I grew up together professionally. And seeing him wrap his arm around this young man and talk to him directly was great. But what was even greater was watching this young man be a sponge and take it in. He took it in just like he takes in coverages when he's talking to Gruden. He will be fine.
David Cornwell, sports attorney, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. You were with Jonathan Martin for all those months where the league was looking into the bullying scandal in Miami. Ted Wells was the person to whom the commissioner and the league handed off that investigation. He now has Deflategate in his hands for over 80 days. David, I know you might just be parachuting into this, but what's taken so long, do you think?
I don't know is the short answer, but based on my experience, it's just Ted being thorough. After listen, you know, we met with Ted for 2 days, probably face-to-face for in excess of 20 hours. And over the course of the process, I can't estimate the amount of time I spent with him. So I know that he's thorough. But at the end of that process, after his report, I sent Ted a note, and I thanked him not only for his thoroughness, but his sensitivity. This man understands the importance of his role. He's not watching the clock. I don't think the commissioner or Jeff Pash are asking him to watch the clock. What they're asking him to do is get it right, and you can count on Ted Wells to get it right.
And you were involved with A-Rod with the Biogenesis Wellness Clinic investigation. A-Rod's back after his year-long suspension, saying all the right things. Nobody believes him, though, David. I mean, everybody thinks he's coming back to collect those $61 million, and yet he's also the Yankees' best hitter through the first week. Who is Alex Rodriguez? Can you help me with that one, David?
Absolutely. With pleasure. Alex Rodriguez is a special, special person. He is a guy that came into the public spotlight as a teenager, even younger than Jameis, and has grown up in this spotlight. And some of the best times that I've had with Alex is alone. Just sitting, you know, having dinner or sitting up in his apartment and talking to things. He is an insightful, he is a sensitive, he is a thoughtful, and he is a capable person, let alone who he is as a baseball player. An incredible talent as a baseball player. I'm not surprised at the least in what he's saying or how he's performing because he's committed. Look, is he perfect? Absolutely not. But who is? Look what look at the distraction that I've created, right?
Yeah, but David, look, I mean, what he did last year and just storming out of a hearing that many people thought he hired people to hold up signs to talk about the Yankees and how they were persecuting him, and then he runs to Mike Francesa and basically lies to his face, wild-eyed. It's very difficult for people to square that circle, regardless of them not having the one-on-one time that you've had with him, David.
Okay, and that's just what we have to accept in the world.
Okay.
I mean, as I said earlier, I can't, Alex can't, Jameis can't, you can't allow people from 10,000 feet to define our truth or our reality. I know who Alex is, and listen. Those were difficult times, but one thing that I was committed to doing was standing up for Alex Rodriguez because I believed in him and continue to believe in him.
David, do I see Jameis Winston at the draft in Chicago? What do you think? Do I see him there?
Oh no, he's hard at work planning a family celebration. We met on this shortly before the pro day. He's planning a family celebration. He's sensitive to other players in the Alabama area who are draft eligible. He doesn't want to draw attention from them. Listen, as I said before at Title IX hearing, Jameis Winston isn't the first pick of the draft, at that point undefeated quarterback or the Heisman Trophy winner. He is the son of Antonor and Loretta Winston. And he was falsely accused of rape. And he was taken through the ringers for a year and a half. And he stood up, but you have no idea who was propping him up. It was family, believing in him. And he wants them to be part of this celebration. It's for them that he's having this draft party. It's for them that he told the commissioner that he would prefer to stay home and celebrate with his family. But he's not trying to do something that's big and overwhelming everybody else's draft day. I mean, this is a very thoughtful young man and a very, very, very close family.
So are you going to are you going to step up and accept the jersey on his behalf and give the commissioner the bear hug, David?
Well, see, that's interesting because Roger and I worked on a handshake, but I couldn't get it right. So I don't think he's going to let me come.
David, thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Look, it's always my pleasure, Rich. Thanks. Good to catch up.
You bet. That's David Cornwell at WM David Cornwell on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.